Hello and welcome to another one of my wisdom walks. I'd like to talk about our ego, that part which we identify with so strongly. We don't actually see it, the ego. We just see what it wants, what it promises. This insatiable hedonic treadmill which we're trapped in at the moment, wanting more and more and more, when all of it just turns to dust. Can't take any of it with you, and nothing is permanent. And that which we put great store by, material things, are of all the worlds the most fleeting, the most ephemeral, the most transient of all the worlds. We put great store by physical wealth, whether it be property, cars, money, social status, etc. In fact, the ego promises that every time it says, oh, you'll want this and you want that, and when you get this and when you get that, you'll be happy. And then we realise that we aren't happy and we want even more. So the fast car that we drive, you want a faster one or a newer one. The house that you buy, you realise that you want a bigger one or one in a better neighbourhood. On it goes, driving us slowly into destruction. This ego, if left unchecked, will carry us away with it. And it's what's spoken of by all the great traditions. But the trick here is to understand that the ego isn't to be despised, it isn't to be hated, as these are, in fact, faculties of the ego itself. But just stand aside and try and reflect on what this ego is saying and how it promises bounty every time and delivers nothing but more wants and more desires. Take a moment, dwell on things, and as said by the great ones who have gone before, never promise anything when you're happy, never say anything when you're angry. Such is the ego, it warps and twists our very words, our very thoughts, and our very conduct. We are driven by it, we do terrible things to one another. As the great Stanford California exercise, I think it was a philosophical exercise experiment that they did. They took ordinary people and put them in a basement and they gave them tasks to do. Some of them were leaders and some of them were followers, etc. And what happened in the end was absolute chaos, and they had to stop the experiment shortly thereafter. Going to show that even though we think that we're noble and just and righteous and good, that these are actually facets of the ego. It even tries to cover its own tracks by saying, oh, you're so good, you've given to charity, oh, you've helped somebody. No, that's the ego again. We must be ever watchful and ever on guard, because the ego is a shape-shifting chameleon. It will dupe you at every turn. It will guise different forms, promising this, promising that, leaving you empty-handed every time, or embarrassed or upset. This overcoming of the ego is not something that we can do alone. We have to want to change. Indeed, the first great revelation on the good path is the recognition that everything we stand for, I mean we as in the self, the individual that you are, that I am, that everything we believe to be true and good and right is actually false. The first great revelation is, the first great truth is that we are false, that everything is an imaginary world based on satiation of 5 senses through food, sex, money, honour, power, control and knowledge. That is our world. We live in those areas. We satiate one desire, it fades. Then we satiate another desire. Then we think of another desire and how we can satiate that. And that's the very, very flat one-dimensional world we live in, forever fleeing pain and seeking pleasure. Now, juxtapose what I've just said with what is spoken of over and over again as a boundless, eternal truth, an eternal existence so massive that it's beyond the five senses. It's so ginormous. It envelops the five senses as a drop to the ocean. And then reflect on how ridiculous the ego, with its perpetual, meagre, flimsy wants, is in juxtapose to the ginormous truth of reality. Ask yourself, is the ego, which is continually beckoning me hence, with promises of this, that and the other, is that really me? Will that give me fulfillment? Will a bigger house really be what I want? This splitting of you in two, if you will, the division between what you perceive as being actually your true self and the ego, is the first momentous step. It's a ginormous leap forward that we must undertake to recognise that the true self is far beyond that which we perceive. As all the great masters have said, Tolstoy wrote, "Everyone thinks of changing the world, but no one thinks of changing himself." Schopenhauer said, "The ordinary man is eternally taken up with what he himself wants, what he has, what he does not have, and what has happened to him." Emerson wrote, "The ego is the false self born out of fear and defensiveness." Heed these words. The recognition and misidentification of the self is a great, ginormous step forward. Compare yourself with somebody who is so ensnared in and captivated by a new motor car or a bigger house. Compare that with this reflection that I've just explained to you, that the ego isn't the self. The desire can never be fulfilled. You will strive for eternity and you will come away empty-handed each time. That's because the ego is the false self. You might know of it in one way or another, depending on your tradition and background. It's spoken of over and over and over again. The existence of the self is not the ego. It is something way deeper, something way bigger, something way more worthwhile than just satiation of senses and the flickering glow of enjoyment which fades. So this ends my wisdom talk now. I'll post a link to the introduction, which I did a few days ago, and also the link to a little voiceover that a very dear friend did about the ego. And we will venture deeper, friends, as we advance on the good path to actually sorting out what is going on, why we're here, and what is our end goal. So bye for now, with all my support and love to you. Thank you for now.